got some of the biggest quotes yet from head coach Erik Spoelstra as he was discussing the brand new starting lineup for this Miami Heat team. We'll break down those quotes as well as other quotes from those key players on this Miami Heat roster. So let's get right to it and break down the news. Now, our healthy starting lineup, and it should say new, our healthy and new starting lineup, because we have not been able to see this lineup in any action. Last year, everyone was hurt when certain players were back, certain players were out, and we never got to use this mix of players at our full disposal. And now with Coach Erik Spoelstra and the rest of this Miami Heat organization buying into the process, it seems like we are going to be very, very good this year. At least after these quotes from head coach Erik Spoelstra, the confidence has just been established, at least for me, and it seems like in that Miami Heat organization, things are just very positive. Everyone is very optimistic to say about this Miami Heat squad in the starting lineup to really force and lead the way for this Miami Heat team. Now, shout out to the Miami Herald and then Anthony Chang, who we'll cite in just a second, for posting this article last night and this morning, saying Heat encouraged by new starting lineup debut and potential. Going on the quote, "We know it's going to work," and that's the end of the quote from Coach Erik Spoelstra. And again, there's a bunch of other ones we're going to break down. We'll get to that quote in just a second, but let's start with this article. Again, shout out to Anthony Chang writing for the Miami Herald as he goes on the title. This Heat encouraged by new starting lineups debut and potential. Going on again to quote, "We know it's going to work." So this is huge. The confidence is already being felt, and we're not even past the title. And it opens up with a piece of information that most people probably won't even know, and it is mind-boggling to even wrap your mind around. He goes on to say the Miami Heat returned 12 players from last season's roster, but the Heat is somehow on track to open this regular season with a starting lineup that didn't play a second together in a game last season. Now, wrap your head around that, at least attempt to. We've discussed this in the past, this past offseason, past season, when we were discussing this Miami Heat team and the riddled season, or the injury-riddled season that we had, and it wasn't just one player. It went from Butler to Hero to Rozier, Adebayo, Jaquez, Richardson, Kevin Love. The list goes on and on and on. But still with that, we had to compete night in and night out, and that's what we did. Coach Erik Spoelstra did his absolute best, really just manipulating lineups, creating different schemes that he could put out on the floor and really compete night in and night out, regardless of the situation and who you're going against that night. And because of that, we led. If we're not first, I believe we were second with total different lineups presented throughout the entirety of last season. I believe we're in second behind only the Memphis Grizzlies, But again, now going into this season, after having 25 plus different starting lineups last season, we are now going into this year with an apparent different starting lineup that didn't get to play a second together last season. Now, that is absolutely mind-numbing to say the least. It's amazing that this is something the Miami Heat have the luxury of doing, because it is a luxury. We have so much depth. We have so much confidence and trust in these other players that we can put them in bigger situations and bigger roles, in the sense of a sixth man or even a seventh or eighth man can find starter minutes. They might not be 30 to 40 minute games that they're playing, but again, they'll start the game, they'll play big chunks in the beginning of the first and second half, roles that they usually don't have because of the confidence in the role we put them in Miami. Things just seem to work out, and again, it is good to see, because again, it is a bit of a luxury. I know having to fix it and change and switch things up due to injury and just lack of a participation or availability is a problem, but the ability to then do that on the fly especially is a huge, huge plus. Shout out to Coach Erik Spoelstra. But we'll move on in this article. It goes on to say, and I quote, "It kind of does surprise me," end of quote, Rozier said, when told that this lineup never played together last season. Quoting Coach Erik Spoelstra, mentioned it earlier. He mentioned that there are going to be bumps in the road. We know it's going to be work. We know it's going to work, but it's not going to be picture perfect at first. But he mentioned that we had played 0 minutes together. I think that is crazy. End of quote from Terry Rozier, and he's not wrong. Again, discussing a conversation him and Erik Spoelstra had about this lineup going into this season, how it didn't play last year at all. Again, it is absolutely amazing to think about. That is actually the way it did play out. I do have the actual starting lineup. It was Jovic, Butler, Adebayo, Hero, and Rozier. we have to remember, obviously, Hero only played in 42 of the 82 games last season. Rozier missed a bunch of time after coming to Miami at the halfway point with the neck injury and the ankle injury he was dealing with, again, past the halfway point of last year. Then we had Jovic in and out of the lineup for different reasons. Butler missed a little bit of time, obviously those 22 games, only playing in 60 of the games last season, and obviously the big run at the end of the year, second play-in game as well as the first round of the playoffs. We all know the story. Adebayo obviously only missed 11 games last year, which is huge, despite him being probably the biggest workhorse on this team in the sense of him playing both defense and offense at the highest level, as well as just not really missing many games. He only missed 11 with a hip injury and I believe a groin injury early on in the year. But again, that was really it. And then for the rest of the rotation, K. Love, Duncan Robinson, Haywood Highsmith, all those guys did miss time last year, whether it be for an extended period of time or not. They did miss some time. Obviously, Nasir Little is one of the new characters on this Miami Heat team, and I can't wait to see how he plays in the regular season. Obviously, last night, he had a horrible shooting night, but again, we're not going to get into the full breakdown yet. We're going to go back to this article and break down the rest of it before we get into the recap of last night's game against the New Orleans Pelicans. During the Heat starting lineups 14 minutes together Sunday, the emphasis was on creating quality looks from around the rim and from three-point range while taking fewer long mid-range shots. Only 2 of the 25 shots that the Heat put up when this starting five was in the game were non-paint twos, one of the least effective shots in the sport. And that is going for the long mid-range game. Probably one of the reasons we didn't make a big pursuit for DeMar DeRozan this past offseason is because that is 95% of his game. Obviously, he is an elite talent at that skill, but again, not something it seems like the Miami Heat want to do going into next season, and I couldn't love this anymore. And the reason is last season you heard me say it over and over and over again like a broken cassette tape. We are stagnant, we are inconsistent, and we are bad, flat out bad on the offensive end. Inside the half court, when we have to get across half court, run set plays, that result in good, efficient basketball. We just didn't see a lot of it last year. Obviously, we can say it was due to the lack of talent and availability that we had amongst the star players we were putting faith in. That is fair and obvious, but again, we can't go back and change that. So what do? We have to make corrections. We have to get out. We have to run in transition. We have players like Tyler Hero, Terry Rozier, Jimmy Butler. Jovic can handle the basketball. He can rebound and push the ball up the floor just like Bam Adebayo, who is obviously a phenomenal facilitator of the basketball. Without a doubt, he's been very good at that his entire career, thankfully. Now, we're going to cite this quote first from head coach Erik Spoelstra before the Jovic one. So shout out to Email Jimmy on Twitter as he goes on to say, Coach Spo on the Heat starting lineup. Quoting Erik Spoelstra as he said, Terry and Tyler looked fast. They make our lineup fast. Jimmy and Bam will be able to figure it out. They're our anchors. Always going to play through them, but Terry and Tyler give us that pop. And again, that's the end of the quote from Coach Erik Spoelstra. And I couldn't agree more once again. I think it's not going to just flat out happen. It might take a month. It might take a few weeks, whatever it may happen. But let this Miami Heat team find their stride, and things will be extremely, extremely good. I am putting a lot of faith and a lot of confidence in this Miami Heat team. I think they're going to exceed any expectations that have been put on them. I think Jimmy Butler is going to be a massive factor. I think Bam Adebayo is not only going to be in the running for DPOY, but may have a conversation with MVP this year. I'm not saying he's going to win it, but I would not be surprised if he was in the top 6 to 8 for the MVP voting without a doubt, producing both on the offense as well as the defensive end and being very effective in doing so. I think this Miami Heat team is going to find abilities to get out and run in transition and really score effectively and quickly, and then play elite level defense, which will then produce those quick and easy baskets, and I can't wait to watch it. Now, the last quote from this article, again, shout out to Anthony Chang in the Miami Herald. We're going to quote Jovic, where he goes on to say, I think we have a great kind of balance between physicality and shooting. Game outside of the paint and game inside the paint, Jovic said. I feel like that's what people see. I feel like the lineup will be very versatile, but we for sure need some time like everybody else. Nothing can just happen from the jump. So we'll see. But we're looking forward to playing together. And again, that's the end of the quote from Nikola Jovic, and I can't emphasize this more. This is great. Yes, they want to play together. They're excited to play together, excuse me. And there's optimism. They're very like open and willing to play together and with the expectations and hope that it's going to be very, very good, not only for the Miami Heat, but for them individually. They think it's going to produce for them individually. They're going to look great, not only offensively, but defensively. 1 through 5 should look very, very good for this Miami Heat squad. Now, last night against the Charlotte Hornets a few nights ago, in these preseason games, we cannot jump out of context and really forget that we're playing preseason and that this is really just a warm-up. Like, hey, let's get on the floor together. Let's get up and down the court a few times. Hey, we're not going to look bad. We're not trying to look bad by any means. We're not trying to make this look like pickup. But again, let's find our groove first. Let's not come out here and play like it's game 1 of the NBA Finals or game 7 of the NBA Finals. Like, it's the NBA preseason. We haven't even made the game 1 of 82. Let's find our stride. Let's get comfortable. Let's feel like we're getting back in the basketball season, and let's get the wheels turning. And now for the box score, there's not a lot to really address. Adebayo shot 3 of 5. Again, if you look at these numbers, it screams preseason. We see 13, 17, 15, 16 minutes, and it goes all the way down. Very, very consistent. The only guy playing a small amount of minutes last night was Kevin Love, and he damn well deserves it. He just shouldn't even have to suit up. Obviously, he wants to, again, to be a part of the Miami Heat roster, to be a part of the team aspect, and really just step out on the floor and find a rhythm for it. But again, he's the only guy last night that played less than 10 minutes. Everyone else was 10 or more minutes, and again, it was a 15-man rotation last night. It's preseason basketball. I will say these youngsters are trying to make a name for themselves. Pelle Larsson never stops moving. It doesn't matter what is going on in the game. He's setting screens. He's moving off of screens. He's moving without the basketball. He's moving with the basketball. He's rebounding. He's defending. I love watching this kid play, and he's going to be a part of this Miami Heat team for a long, long time. Now, other guys, Jaquez was playing well. He shot 3 of 6. Josh Christopher shot a lot better than he did against the Charlotte Hornets. I felt like he was trying to force things against the Hornets. Didn't do that last night. Shot 2 of 6. Again, not great. Khalil Ware played decent. Again, there's just a lot of different talent coming in and out of the game at different times, so it's hard to let these guys get into a full rhythm and find their own strides here. But just the overall feeling of getting back on the basketball court is what I love to watch. Now, the last two things I want to highlight for you guys is this is the Miami Heat shot chart for the first quarter exclusively. Now, if you notice, there's one, I don't know if you can see it, just on the side right here. There's one right there. That's a three-point shot. Now, and then obviously everything else is from behind the top of the key or the other corner. And then if you look in the painted area, that's where the majority of our shots are coming from. And this should make you ecstatic if you're a Miami Heat fan. You're living and dying by the three-point shot or layups and dunks. That is great. Now, obviously, last night it didn't work. And the reason I'm saying it didn't work is because if you look at our three-point percentage, it was god-awful. Now, we shot 9 of 37 from the three-point, we shot 9 of 42. Pelicans shot 9 of 37. That is probably why we won the game, because we shot just as bad and they shot just as bad, is what I should say. Again, horrible night from the three-point line and behind it. But again, we can't rely and think that that's going to happen night in and night out. With the talent we have on this team, again, with the ability to shoot the three-point shot, there is so much of a weapon and so much depth on this Miami Heat team that can produce three-point shots. So again, I'm not going to say this game plan's not going to work. I actually love this game plan because of the ability to go inside and out when playing schematically with someone as smart as Coach Erik Spoelstra. And again, I think they can really, really manipulate defenses if they feed players like Khalil Ware and Bam Adebayo inside the three-point line and have players like Jovic, Butler, Hero, Robinson, Jaquez, like the list goes on, of players who can just flat out spray it from the outside and really torment defenses. And obviously, if you feed Bam on the block and they do double, obviously we kick it out. It's an open three-point shot. Someone is going to be open. But then if you don't double him, and depending on his matchup, Bam is going to probably do very, very, very well against the majority of his matchups due to the talent he has. And then obviously we have players like Khalil Ware where we can see screen and rolls with him and Bam. The offensive potential for this team is actually undeniable, and I can't wait to see it play out. A little bit longer of a video. I apologize. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one.